Hello and welcome back to Mr. Miller's Art Room. Today we have a very exciting project to work on. We are going to be creating our names as shapes. Now, as before in other videos, I've talked about how shapes work. Shapes are a two-dimensional element of art. They require lines which are one-dimensional. For instance, let's go ahead and do a quick sketch right over here. A line is 2 points. Point A and point B. It could be it could be more points than that, like point C or point D. But this is not a shape. This is a one-dimensional element. It only becomes a shape when the lines close in on each other and you have an inside and outside. So we'd have to have 1, 2, 3, then 4. In this particular shape, we have a almost square. It's a rectangle. It's a little longer at the top than it is tall. But you have A going to B, going to C, going to D, meeting once again back to A and closing, so that there's an inside and an outside. A shape has to have an enclosed line, an inside and an outside.
That's all well and good, Mr. Miller, but what's this got to do with our names?
Mr. Monocle, did you grow a goatee?
Well, yes, I did. What do you think?
It's a bit much. Nevertheless, Mr. Monocle, it is a good question. What this has to do with our names is the fact that our names are drawn or written with lines. For instance, my name is Mr. Miller. I'm not going to use my Mr. part, but I'll just write the name Miller. It's spelled M-I-L, I'll use capital letters, L-E-R. Now, typically when I do this project, I write a little bit lighter with the pencil so that it makes it easy to erase. But for the purposes of seeing the camera, I'm going to draw a little bit darker. Now, we've got lines here. Now, the first thing that you need in order to make a shape are lines. And what we also know is that in order to make a line into a shape, the lines have to meet back with each other and have an inside and an outside space.
Very well, Mr. Miller. So, for instance, how would you make that M, the letter M, into a shape?
What I would do is I would look at the line, the way the line is guided. Then I would take my pencil and I would go ahead and start going back and making a slightly smaller version of the letter. And then watch this. I closed it off.
Mr. Miller, it is now a shape. There's an inside and an outside.
That's correct, Mr. Monocle. There is an inside and an outside to that M. So if I wanted to do that with the letter I could do it like this. I could do the letter L's like this. All I'm doing is basically following the line and closing it off. Now watch this. When I get here with this E, this line connects to the top bar right here, and I don't want that. So what I would do in this instance is grab my eraser. I would erase this little part right here. Then I could continue this down here, here, and here. I'll have to do something similar over here with the R. So what I'll do is I'll come over here, up, down, finish that, and make a little bit of a hole right here for the part of the R. Now this part of the R gets in really tight to that, so I don't really want that. So what I'm going to do is just erase a smidge right here, and then maybe I'll stop it here and I'll come down there. Now this is a very basic version of creating shapes with letters, and this can be the basis for making signs, illustrations, comic book logos, titles of books, even graffiti art. It all comes from being able to turn your letters, the ones that you write, into shapes. But just plainly doing this with a pencil and an eraser isn't all that we're going to do. We're also going to get to trace the outline of our shape with a Sharpie. We'll add at least one detail that means something to us personally on each of our pieces of artwork using our names. Then I'm going to give you an option to use paint, crayons, or markers in order to color your artwork. Right now, I'm going to show you 4 different ways to spell my name, Miller, in 4 different styles.
4 different styles? I didn't know there were so many.
There's not more. There's not less than 4. There's a whole bunch of different ways to do your name. It's just going to be up to you. Now, the first way I'm going to show you is very, very similar to the one I showed you before. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spell out my name. I'm using all capital letters right now because it's easy for me to spell, but you can do this with lowercase. Maybe I'll show you that in the next one. After the letters are spelled out, and I drew it very lightly, I didn't push down hard with the pencil because these lines have to disappear. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and turn all of these into shapes. But I'm not going to worry about erasing anything because I'm going to erase later. What I'm going to do is draw all the shape lines, then I'll trace it with the Sharpie, and then I'll use the eraser to erase the extra pencil lines. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to follow what I already made. The lines that you initially draw, that means the lines that you draw first, are going to tell you all about the way that your name is going to look in the picture. And don't get it twisted, this is a picture. These are shapes. Yes, you can read them like words, but they're shapes. Now here, I'm going to make a decision. Sometimes you got to make a decision on the fly. I'm going to extend this line down here. I'm going to add this line right here, and that's going to allow me to follow this line through. The lines that you create, you want to be thinking about, how am I going to trace them with my pen? Now that I've done this, I'm going to go ahead and trace the outline with my pen. So just like this. I'm taking my time. I'm not rushing it. Just like that. The I, L, L, E, and I want you to notice how I left that crossbar right here, that middle stem there, in between the E. And I'm going to show you the R real quick. Notice how I made that change right here, but I left this line there. That's not a problem, because I know I'm going to use the eraser in just a little bit to erase it. Now, if you make a little mistake or you're not 100% on the line, that is not a big deal. We're just learning today, and we're learning all throughout our entire artistic process. Now, once this is done, I'm going to go ahead and hit this with the eraser. The best way to use the eraser is to turn the paper to the side, take one hand, hold it down, take the other eraser, and push away from you. Don't pull it back toward you because you can wind up crinkling the paper. Push, pick it up, put it down. Push, pick it up, put it down. Now, this is very slow, but the way you can do it, once you get really good at this, is boom, just like this, really swift. You'll notice that the pen stays, but the pencil disappears, especially if you drew lightly to begin with. Now, this is just the start, but let me show you 3 different styles. The next one I'm going to make is going to be big, bombastic, and they're going to have overlapping letter shapes.
Mr. Miller, how in the world is this going to work out?
Don't worry, Mr. Monocle. Watch this.
Very good, Mr. Miller, but you said that whenever you have overlapping shapes, you need to erase some part of the shape to make it look like it's above or under.
Yeah, that's correct, actually, Mr. Monocle. That is correct. However, we're actually going to do that part using our Sharpie.
I see, Mr. Miller. You drew around the lines and made shapes of them. But that eye looks a little bit funny. Look, there's a line across there. Is that a mistake?
Yes, it is actually a mistake. But just because you make a mistake doesn't mean you need to whine or cry about it. There's always a solution. So my idea here was I'm going to erase all the rest of the pencil lines, and I'm going to take this little piece of paper that I cut to size and put it right there, and that should fix it just fine. That's the second example. The next two I'm going to show you real quick. This one's not quite cursive, but it is kind of fancy and flowing. I let the shape swoop, get bigger and smaller at certain points, and boom. This next one is what most people refer to as bubble letters. I start with the regular writing of my name to make sure that I can actually fit my name here. Then what I'm going to do is draw bubble shapes around each letter. M, I, L, L, E, R. And for letters like E that have a space in the middle of it, you can actually use a little bit of the shape that you already, the line that you already drew, and just add that little circle in there that you're going to trace. And we got the bubble letter Mr. Miller version right here. This video went a little bit long because there's a lot here to work on and understand. So in the next video, which is going to be part 2 of this lesson, we're going to talk about personalizing it with decorations and coloring it as well. Thank you very much for watching. Go ahead and get drawing, and good day.
We said good day.